The rain hadn't begun falling yet, but the sky above Southridge was already turning heavy and dim, hinting that a storm was brewing. Inside a tidy little two-bedroom house on a quiet street, Clara Vaughn poured herself a generous glass of red wine, her fingers unsteady around the stem. She kept glancing up at the kitchen clock. Just 23 minutes remained before Aaron, the man she'd called her husband for half a decade, would walk in, totally unaware of what she was about to lay on him. Tonight, she'd changed out of her usual comfy yoga pants and the old hoodie she loved, slipping instead into a sleeveless emerald green top that hugged her figure just right. Her makeup wasn't loud, but it was carefully done, just enough to catch his attention. Clara wasn't dressing to entice him into bed. She wanted to throw him off balance, to stir up the waters of something she'd already convinced herself was bold and necessary. For months, her friend Monica, fearless and blunt, had been whispering in her ear, "Clara, you've forgotten what it feels like to be wanted. Marriage isn't a prison unless you let it become one. Trust me, I've walked that path. A little spark from someone else can light your whole spirit again." Clara had laughed it off at first, but the thought kept growing roots in her mind, especially on those evenings when Aaron came home bone-tired, collapsed onto the couch, and barely spared her a glance. Was it fair? Of course not. But she wasn't after fairness anymore. She was desperate for something electric, validation, attention, the rush of feeling alive. So she planned the dinner with care. Her lasagna, which Aaron adored, was warming in the oven. A bottle of imported Italian wine chilled in a silver ice bucket. She wanted the familiar comforts to soften him before she told him the truth. Her phone buzzed. A text from Monica popped up. "Monica, tonight is the night. Be the spark, not the cinders. He'll either bend or burn." Clara read those words over and over. Deep inside, a flicker of guilt stirred, but she drowned it with another sip of wine. This was about her, she insisted to herself. At exactly 6:02, she heard the front door creak open. Heavy boots hit the floorboards, Aaron stepping in with his work bag slung over one shoulder, rain still clinging to his jacket. His face lit up when he noticed the set table. "Wow," he said, stopping in surprise. "Date night." Clara forced a small, tight smile. Something like that. She passed him a glass of wine. He accepted it gratefully, but his eyes narrowed as he studied her. "You okay?" "I will be," she answered, gesturing for him to sit down. "Let's have dinner first." They ate in near silence. The food was good as always, but the air between them felt tense, stretched thin. Finally, she let out a slow breath and set her fork aside. "Aaron, we need to talk." His shoulders stiffened. "What is it?" "I need something," she began, doing her best to keep her tone steady. "Not necessarily from you. From my life. From myself." Aaron looked puzzled. "Okay, I've been feeling invisible," she admitted. "Not unloved exactly, but like I've disappeared into the background." "Monica says," he interrupted her with a skeptical eyebrow. "Monica says." "Clara, that woman thinks Tinder is a substitute for therapy." She ignored his sarcasm. "She reminded me how short life is. So I've made a choice. Just for a little while. A couple of months, maybe. I want to try something different." His face shifted as he leaned back, studying her carefully. "What sort of different?" Clara swallowed hard. "I want to see other people." The wine glass hovered in midair. "Are you asking for a divorce?" "No," she rushed to clarify. "I still want to be married. But, openly. For a time." For several seconds, he only looked at her. No yelling, no slamming his hands down, just a hollow quiet. Then he nodded once, very slowly. "So you're asking for permission to cheat on me?" She winced. "It's not about betrayal. Don't cheapen this," he replied evenly, setting the glass down with a soft clink. "Call it what it is." Her voice sank to almost nothing. "I need this, for me." Aaron stood up without anger, but a chill had entered his eyes. "Then I'll be sleeping in the guest room tonight." "Wait, you're not even going to discuss this? What's left to talk about? You've already chosen." "I thought you might." "What? Compete?" he asked, a bitter little smile twitching at his mouth. "You want to dance with chaos? Don't expect me to stand still in the storm." He turned away and walked down the hallway. The door clicked shut behind him. Clara stood there by herself, wine glass trembling in her hand, her pulse racing, too shocked by his calm to grasp what she'd just set in motion. And Aaron? He didn't slam any doors. He didn't shed a tear. But somewhere inside him, something fractured and something darker woke up. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She lay in the bed alone, staring at the ceiling. Aaron had followed through and moved to the guest room. She thought she'd feel unchained, maybe even exhilarated. Instead, it felt like the air itself had turned thick, pressing down on her. But when dawn came, the guilt was gone, buried under a surge of adrenaline and Monica's late-night texts. He didn't blow up. That's perfect. Now he'll brood and eventually crawl back once he sees you're still in demand. Those words echoed in her mind. Clara gave herself a small smile in the bathroom mirror as she fixed her lipstick. Part of her wanted so badly to believe Monica was right. This wasn't cheating, she insisted silently. Just a temporary exploration. Just a woman learning to feel alive again. At work, everything seemed brighter. Colors stood out. Conversations felt charged. She slipped into a dress she hadn't worn in ages. By lunchtime, the whispers had already started. That was when Eli, a gentle consultant with soft eyes and a thoughtful way of speaking, messaged her. You looked amazing in the hallway this morning. Clara's thumbs hovered over her phone screen. Should she send a smiley? A simple thank you? Something playful? She picked a bolder answer. Maybe I'm dressing up for you now. Eli didn't take long to write back. I'll pretend that's my cue. Things moved fast after that. They met up for drinks the next evening. And again the night after. And before Clara fully realized it, she'd started weaving lies, not only for Aaron, but for herself too. She started to feel wanted again in a way she hadn't felt in years. Eli always knew exactly what to say. He noticed the way she smelled, complimented her perfume, told her she was something rare, something special. She laughed around him, really laughed, more than she could remember doing in a long time. Meanwhile, Aaron kept his distance. He wasn't shouting or pleading. He was just watching her, waiting, studying every move she made. Aaron wasn't much of a talker. He built things with his hands for a living, but he was sharp when it came to patterns. He picked up on the new password she'd set, the secret of messages, the long showers that left her phone perched close by, the way she flinched when it buzzed. Clara mistook his quiet for weakness. But Aaron wasn't planning a dramatic scene. He was crafting something much colder than a fight. He was getting ready to respond. One afternoon, she came home earlier than usual and found him crouched over a box in the garage, some kind of electrical equipment. When he noticed her, he shoved it out of sight with a single smooth motion. She tried a small smile. Still putting in late hours out here? He let out a grunt. Helps me clear my head. He didn't bother looking at her. And somehow, that calm demeanor was more unsettling than any argument. It wasn't rage. It wasn't heartbreak. Just something calculating. Clara started to turn away but stopped herself. You know this is only temporary, right? I'm not trying to ruin everything. Aaron finally lifted his gaze. His eyes were steady, glowing with something she couldn't quite name. You already have. She didn't answer him. She just walked back into the house, feeling her chest go tight. Days rolled by. Then weeks. Her nights with Eli grew bolder. They met in parking lots after work. Once, they hooked up in the backseat of his car while rain hammered down around them. She felt alive, reckless, like she was finally in control. But the rush carried shadows she hadn't expected. Little things started to stand out. Vanessa, a coworker she barely knew, stopped offering so much as a polite hello in the hallway. One morning, she found a sticky note on her keyboard. Be careful who's watching. She tried to shrug it off. Until Monica called, her voice unsteady. Something weird is going on. I gotta call Clara. Someone's been snooping. Clara swallowed hard. Snooping into what? Into all of it. Us. What we've been up to. Someone's been feeding information to HR. Her gut twisted. You think it's Aaron? You said he was calm. Monica took a shaky breath. That's exactly the problem. That's the kind of man you should worry about. That night, Clara opened her laptop. A strange folder waited on the desktop, labeled Clara Personal. Inside were screenshots of her messages, GPS logs tracking her car, even a spreadsheet titled Encounters_confirmed. XLSX. Her breath caught sharp in her throat. This wasn't just idle curiosity. This was systematic. Cold. She deleted everything in a frenzy, but it didn't change the truth. Aaron had known all along. At 2:17 in the morning, she padded down the hallway to the guest room. Aaron? No reply. She eased the door open. The bed was untouched. And Aaron was gone. She hurried to the window. His truck was missing from the driveway. He hadn't even taken any clothes. He'd just vanished. Clara stood there gripping her phone, so tight her knuckles whitened, dread creeping through her chest like a slow fire. She'd set a blaze in her life, and Aaron had picked up the match and walked away with it. For 2 full days, nothing. No calls, no texts, no receipts on the counter. Only a hollow, oppressive silence. The house felt huge, empty, impossible to relax in. Sleep came in scraps. She'd doze off only to bolt awake, heart thudding with panic. She kept telling herself he'd be back. He always cooled off, sooner or later. He was a man who craved order, who clung to habit. But she felt, deep down, something was different this time. On the 3rd morning, a letter arrived. No stamp. No return address. She opened it at the kitchen table, her heart hammering in her ears. One sheet of paper printed in neat black letters. Clara, I won't stop you. But remember this. Freedom always has a cost. Keep your eyes open. She read it over and over. What was he saying? That morning, Monica didn't pick up. Neither did Eli. Clara's hands trembled as she scrolled through her phone, checking messages, social media, anything. Nothing. Then her phone rang. An unknown number. She hesitated, then pressed accept. Mrs. Vaughn? A man's voice, deep and official. Yes. This is Officer Talbot with Southridge PD. We recovered a vehicle registered to you. It was left out in Hillside Creek, miles from town. We believe it was deliberately abandoned. Her heart lurched. My car? That's not possible. It's in the garage. No, ma'am. That's your husband's truck. She felt her legs nearly give out. Is he okay? The officer paused. He's not missing, ma'am. We spoke with him yesterday. He asked us to let you know that all accounts tied to you in the marital estate are in the process of being transferred. He's also filed a protection order. You'll be receiving official papers soon. Clara sank to her knees. Wait, a protection order? I can't go into details. You'll need to contact your lawyer. By mid-afternoon, it was everywhere. Her name, her face, a leaked video. It started as a security file sent to the company's internal channel. Someone, no one admitted who shared it further. A short, grainy clip. A dark room. Clara's voice, low and laughing. A man's voice answering. Eli. Her own bedsheets in the background. The bedsheets shared with Aaron. The video didn't reveal much, but it didn't have to. Her laugh was enough. Her betrayal was right there in the sound. The file was tagged with one line. Some vows break themselves, but some break everyone around them. By the time she finally reached Monica, she already knew. Everything was unraveling. That night, she met Monica behind an old liquor store, in a dark parking lot that smelled like rain and asphalt. Monica's face was pale, stripped of her usual swagger. He did it. Monica leaned in close and whispered, her voice raw. It's Aaron. He isn't just sitting back anymore. He's torching everything around you. Clara's mouth went dry. What are you talking about? He's hired people, Clara. Maybe even a whole team. My landlord called me. Someone sent him a file, videos of me with Logan. With Daniel. Stuff I didn't even know was recorded. Clara felt her throat tighten, her voice breaking. I found folders on my computer. He's been tracking everything and leaking it little by little. I just got suspended from work. HR said there's an investigation about ethics violations. Clara stared out into the night. You promised me this wouldn't get out of hand. Monica let out a hollow laugh. No, I said it would feel exciting. You were the one who thought that meant harmless. There's a difference. You told me men always come around, that they can't resist a woman with confidence. Monica's eyes glistened. I was wrong. Aaron's not like other men. He doesn't react. He plans. The next morning, Clara was summoned to the company boardroom. For people were waiting. HR, a representative from legal, and a tall man she'd never seen before, probably security. She declined the coffee they offered. Then they pushed a thick folder across the table. Inside were screenshots, timestamps, logs of her office badge entries, messages between her and Eli, between her and Monica, even calendar entries matched up with equipment checkouts. The HR director's mouth was drawn tight. This evidence suggests serious conflicts of interest, misuse of company resources, and violations of our conduct policy. Clara's voice came out in a whisper. How did you collect all this? No one answered her. The security guy shifted in his chair. We also received audio files from an external party. Clara's stomach turned. Aaron, she rasped. Still, nobody confirmed it. They didn't fire her outright. They said they'd review everything. But Clara knew what that meant. She left the building trembling so badly, she had to lean against the wall to steady herself. When she finally pulled into her driveway, she discovered her key no longer worked. The locks had been changed. Her possessions were stacked neatly in boxes on the front porch. Taped to the top was another note. You lit the match. I just watched it burn. Welcome to the freedom you wanted so badly. Clara sank onto the doormat, her knees hitting hard, surrounded by all the remnants of her life. Aaron wasn't cold anymore. He'd turned precise. She finally understood. Revenge doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just quietly gathers proof. Clara had never known cold like this. Not the chill that comes in winter. The cold she felt now had settled inside her, hollowing her out, freezing her from the inside. The boxes weren't just clothes and dishes. They were a record of everything she'd built, and everything Aaron had taken apart with quiet determination. She loaded them into her car and drove to Monica's apartment. Monica hardly spoke as Clara paced in circles across the living room. Have you heard from Eli? Clara finally asked. Monica didn't look up from the floor. His wife threw him out. Clara's heart gave a sick lurch. He was married. He told me they were separated. Monica finally lifted her gaze, her face exhausted. That's what they always say when they want something they can't keep. Within a week, Clara's reputation wasn't just bruised, it was obliterated. Screenshots of her flirty chats appeared on social media. Anonymous accounts posted them everywhere, almost definitely supplied by Aaron's quiet network. He never said a word himself, never posted a single comment. He let the rest of the world handle the scorn. So she cheated and thought she'd get applause. Imagine doing all that and crying on TikTok after. Must be rough to lose the man you didn't value. The digital backlash came in waves. Clara tried making a video to defend herself, but 2 minutes in, the comments broke her. Aaron had never yelled. He hadn't needed to. He'd made silence into a weapon. Then the legal documents arrived. Divorce expedited. Aaron's lawyer, Talia Rourke, had a reputation that preceded her. Cold as marble, unflinching, and meticulous. The sort of woman who dismantled people with a calm smile. Clara sat across from her in a mediation room, her hands trembling. "You're entitled to nothing," Talia said evenly. "No house, no vehicle, no support payments. We have comprehensive evidence, recordings, witnesses, a clear timeline, and proof of intent." Clara's voice wavered. "But we were still married. He never asked me to stop." Talia's eyes glimmered with a hint of pity. "He handed you the rope, Miss Vaughn. You decided how to use it." The hearing was over almost before it began. The judge barely looked at Clara. Aaron didn't have to open his mouth. The evidence laid everything bare. Texts, receipts, hotel records, security footage. When he finally stood, he looked steady, unreadable. "My wife didn't cheat on me," he said calmly. "She chose to walk away from our life. She asked for freedom, and I gave it to her. But in doing that, she also made something clear. I didn't lose a partner. I lost someone who was never really planning to stay." The courtroom went silent. Clara looked up at him, and his face was a blank wall. Not angry, just finished. That emptiness stung more than any rage ever could have. That night, she checked into a budget motel on the edge of town. Her phone buzzed with a message from Monica. "You okay?" Clara stared at the screen for a long moment before she admitted it to herself. No, she wasn't okay at all. She had nothing left. Not her marriage. Not her home. Her career was gone. Her name dragged through the mud. And still, in some stubborn, twisted corner of her mind, she wanted to pin the blame on Monica. She tapped out a message on her phone. "You promised this would feel powerful. You said men always crawl back. Mine didn't. He burned every bridge and left me on the shore." No response came. Monica probably had her own disasters to handle. Rumor had it her husband was filing for sole custody, and Logan, the guy she'd fooled around with at work, had skipped town without a word. It was like every man they tangled with had been booby-trapped from the start. Sleep never really came. Clara lay there night after night, rereading Aaron's final note until the words etched themselves into her thoughts. "You lit the match. I simply watched it burn." Over and over, the line pounded in her head like a heartbeat she couldn't slow down. She tried drinking the memory away, but the worst part wasn't the loss. It was that Aaron never gloated, never texted her "and I told you so." He didn't have to. He'd already won. But revenge leaves strange echoes behind. Even the one who triumphs sometimes leaves a door cracked open. Clara would lie on the sagging motel mattress, staring up at the ceiling while the flickering light bulb cast jittery shadows that looked like ghosts dancing along the walls. Each passing hour felt like a sentence she'd earned. The days blurred together. Rejected job applications. People whispering behind their hands in the grocery aisle. Online scorn that never let up. She had become the woman everyone pointed to, the cautionary tale nobody wanted to be. And Aaron? He vanished into a new life she couldn't glimpse. Some said he'd started a contracting business somewhere else, maybe even started dating again. She couldn't let herself believe it. Some desperate part of her still clung to the idea that maybe a little piece of what they'd shared was still out there, waiting. But reality was louder than her fragile hopes. 2 months later, she found herself sitting across from the office manager at a dental clinic, hoping to land a receptionist job. The woman offered her a polite, tight smile. "I'm going to be honest with you, Clara. We did look you up." Clara felt her chest cave in. "Of course you did." The woman's voice was gentle but unyielding. "I don't assume everything online is true. But when we reached out to your previous employers, there were concerns." Clara nodded, voice flat. "Thank you for considering me." She walked out with her head down, feeling hollow. Broke. Alone. Her spirit unraveling a little more every day. That afternoon, Clara wandered back to the neighborhood where she and Aaron had lived. The house had been sold, transformed. Fresh paint on the siding. Perfect hedges. Pots of bright flowers lining the porch. Like someone had scrubbed every trace of her away. But she hadn't come to see the house. She was searching for some last shred of closure she knew she'd never get. Aaron never screamed at her. Never called her names. Never sent bitter texts late at night. He just shut the door behind him, and that quiet ending had driven her crazier than any screaming match ever could have. One evening, rain soaking her hair, she slipped into the back row of a bookstore hosting a talk by some motivational speaker. Reinventing your life after you've wrecked it. She sat there, dripping onto the floor, half hoping the words would save her. They weren't comforting, but they stung in a way she needed. You can lose everything and still go on. But if you don't own your choices, you'll burn every bridge you cross. Accountability isn't punishment. It's the first brick in rebuilding. Clara let out a shaky breath, like something old inside her cracked wide open. The next morning, she wrote a letter. Not to beg forgiveness. Not to erase the past. Just to say the truth. Aaron, you never yelled. You never even fought. And that silence was the loudest pain I've ever known. Part of me wants to defend what I did. I mistook attention for love. I listened to someone who praised chaos and called it freedom. But you didn't break me. I did that all by myself. And somehow, even in your quiet, relentless revenge, you still showed more grace than I deserved. I don't expect you to answer. I only wanted to thank you. For walking away instead of destroying me. For letting me fall on my own terms. For proving that sometimes silence is the most honest response. Clara. She mailed it to the address of his new business. No return info. No expectation. Just a final word. The weeks ticked by. No reply ever came. Then one night, while she was volunteering at a shelter for women who'd survived abusive relationships, part of her court-ordered restitution, she slipped out to grab a cup of coffee from the diner next door. A pickup truck pulled into the lot, the same model she'd watched disappear. Her heart thumped hard. Aaron stepped out, wearing those old boots she knew by heart. He didn't look angry or cold, just steady. Hey, Clara, he said, as if they'd never been at war. Her throat closed up. Why are you here? He looked toward the building. I build things. They call me to help with the new wing. She let out a small, exhausted laugh. Of course they did. He shifted his weight. I got your letter. Clara swallowed hard. I never thought you'd reply. I didn't plan to, he said, voice low. But I wanted to tell you something. She held her breath. You were right, he said finally. I didn't fight. Not because I didn't care. Because if I had started, I wouldn't have stopped. And I couldn't let myself turn into something worse just to punish you. Clara felt tears rising. You already punished me. He gave a sad little smile. I didn't destroy you, Clara. I just made you face the mirror. They stood there in the drizzle, the cold evening wrapping around them. Are you happy now? She asked quietly. Aaron looked up at the scaffolding, the fresh wood beams taking shape. I'm healing, he said. That's better than happy. She nodded slowly. Me too. For a moment, they stayed there, two people who had burned everything to the ground, and somehow walked out of the ashes, scarred but breathing.